let's talk about one of the biggest, most stressful, and most exciting purchases any of us will ever make: buying a home. For generations, the path has looked pretty much the same, but what if that's all about to change? Today, we're diving into an article that lays out a pretty wild vision for how the world of cryptocurrency could completely reshape the future of homeownership. So, let's just kick things off with a question that I'm sure we've all asked ourselves at some point. Why on earth is buying a house still so incredibly difficult? It's slow, it's confusing, it's packed with paperwork. And it's exactly this problem that a new wave of technology is promising to tackle. All right, so before we get to all the futuristic stuff, we have to look at where we are right now. To really understand where we might be headed, you have to appreciate the challenges of the path we've all been stuck on for decades. The traditional route to owning a home, well, it's full of hurdles. And yeah, these probably look painfully familiar, right? First, you've got to scrape together a massive pile of cash for the down payment. Then, you're basically at the mercy of a bank, navigating their slow, complex, and kind of old-fashioned approval process, all while just crossing your fingers that you fit into their perfect little box. It's a system that really hasn't changed much in a very, very long time. But this is where the whole conversation starts to change. The source we're looking at today suggests a huge shift is already underway, and it's all centered on a new kind of wealth that millions of people now have: digital assets. So the first big idea here is a complete rethink of the down payment. You know how you usually have to sell your investments, your stocks, your cryptos, and liquidate everything just to get that cash? Well, a new option is popping up, using those assets as collateral. This means you get to borrow against their value without actually selling them. So how does this actually work in the real world? It's simpler than you might think. Step 1, you hold crypto assets, right? Step 2, you pledge them to a lender, kind of like a security deposit. And then, step 3, you get the cash for your loan, but, and this is the key, you never sold your crypto. You've unlocked its value while keeping your original investment intact. And this is the part that really matters, the so what of it all. According to the article, this is a huge deal for a few reasons. 1, you keep your crypto, which could obviously keep growing in value. 2, you get to put off paying a potentially massive capital gains tax bill. And 3, you turn an asset that's just sitting there into cold, hard cash you can actually use. And make no mistake, we are not talking about some tiny, niche corner of the financial world. This pool of digital wealth is already enormous, and according to the source, it is expanding at a frankly incredible pace. Just get a load of this number: nearly 250,000 people. The article states that's how many crypto millionaires there are now, all around the globe. That represents a brand new and very significant group of potential home buyers. And if you think that number is wild, this chart shows you just how fast this is all happening. Look at that first bar. The number of Bitcoin millionaires shot up by 70% in just 1 year. That's not just growth, that's an explosion of wealth, and it's happening right now. And to put all of this into perspective, you get this number: $3.3 trillion. That's the total value of the crypto market. When you have that much capital in play, you better believe the traditional housing market is going to start paying very close attention. So, okay, we've got all this new digital money sloshing around. The logical next question is, how do the old systems react? And that brings us right to our next section, which is all about how the actual rules of finance are being rewritten as we speak. The source points to some really crucial milestones here, showing this isn't just a theory anymore. In 2025, US regulators basically gave a nod, saying that crypto could be factored into mortgage applications. Then, just a year later, you had major companies starting to actually offer these crypto-backed loans. This is crypto moving from the fringes right into the mainstream. And the technology behind all this, blockchain, could change the transaction itself. I mean, just look at the comparison. On the left, you've got the old way: slow, expensive, with tons of middlemen and paperwork. But on the right, the article describes a future powered by blockchain that's nearly instant, way cheaper, and more secure. It's a pretty stark difference. But all of that is still just about making the current process faster and better. The source material goes even bigger, exploring a truly mind-bending idea. What if the very concept of what it means to own property is about to transform? Okay, the key term to get your head around here is tokenization. It sounds super technical, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward. Imagine taking a real-world thing, like an apartment building, and turning it into a bunch of digital shares, kind of like stocks. Each share is a token, a little digital piece of the whole building. So why is that such a big deal? Well, it means you could buy a small piece of a property, just like you buy a share of Apple. This makes real estate way easier to buy and sell, and it crashes the cost of entry. Suddenly, you don't need a $50,000 down payment. Maybe you could start investing with just a few $100. And if you're wondering how big this idea could get ready. The projections cited in the article suggest this market could hit $4 trillion by 2035. To put that in perspective, that's bigger than the entire economy of some major countries. It's a fundamental shift in how we could think about property. But the source makes a really powerful point that this isn't just about finance and making investors richer. It's really about access. It's about creating new ways for people who've been locked out of the system to finally get a piece of the pie, potentially tackling housing affordability on a global scale. So after all that, what's the big takeaway? The article concludes that we're not watching crypto replace the old system entirely. Instead, what's happening is the creation of a new, parallel, hybrid financial world, where these new digital tools are going to exist right alongside the traditional banks and lenders. And there's this one quote from the source that just perfectly captures this whole shift. It says, "The future homeowner may not walk into a bank with just a savings account. They may walk in with a digital wallet." That one image just paints the picture perfectly, doesn't it? So we'll end on this final question, something to really chew on. If the nature of wealth is changing, if the tools we use to buy a home are changing, and if the very idea of ownership is changing, what does that ultimately mean for who gets to have a place to call their own? It's a pretty profound thought to leave you with.